Hey, Dr. C with you. Let's talk about the best vitamins for thyroid issues. Here's the thing. Your thyroid is dependent upon a wide range of nutrients, micronutrients, macronutrients, and getting the right ones is a big part of maintaining thyroid health. In this video, I'll help you understand thyroid health and supplements. You'll learn how thyroid health is interconnected with nutrients and how proper supplementation can support those with thyroid issues. We'll also talk about, quality, about how targeted specific nutrients make a big difference and how some common ones can be problematic. So for starters, let's go through a few key essential nutrients that are big parts of thyroid function. And we've got to start with iodine. It's kind of unusual that this one nutrient has such a big effect upon one specific thing in the body. There aren't other examples like that. Things like magnesium work on over 300 biochemical pathways. Iodine really has one big central role, and everything else is secondary. And the other thing that's very different about it is the amounts we require are small and narrow. There's no nutrient that has such a narrow therapeutic window. What I mean by that is the amount that's too low and the amount that's too high, they're not that far apart. That's a really difficult thing. And there's variation in our genetics that involve iodine metabolism. And it's no coincidence that the same genetics that correlate with risks for thyroid disease correlate with variances in iodine metabolism. The short version of that is those prone to thyroid disease can't tolerate slight excesses of iodine. So we need it. Now, in the modern world, we get food from a lot of different geographic areas. We get a range of food types, and iodine deficiency in adults in the modern world has vanished. It is not around anymore. As of 2014, there have been 0 nations on Earth categorized as severely iodine deficient. There are some that are mildly deficient, but they're not in the modern world. So in the modern world, we get plenty regardless of our diets. There's very few cases of people actually being deficient. Some can be low in tests. That's a big topic, but it's not the same thing as being deficient. Tests aren't perfect. But overall, iodine deficiency is rare, and slight excesses can be problematic for those with thyroid disease. So the main action points we'll talk about are being aware of it and just avoiding all the obvious sources that are easy enough to avoid is the main action step. Next up would be selenium. Now, this is definitely the next most important nutrient for the thyroid in terms of the number of chemical pathways it's involved with, but then also in terms of the fact that many can be low in it. Selenium is in a wide range of whole foods, but some are on very restrictive diets. They may have cut out a lot of plant food categories. Perhaps they're not consuming nuts or seeds or whole grains, or some are avoiding a lot of animal foods. And either of those can cause someone to end up being low in selenium. What it does is it helps to control how much thyroid hormone we make, how well it leaves the thyroid, and how it's used in all the various parts in the body and how it's finally broken down. We also know that selenium has almost different paths to play between dietary sources and supplemental sources. Selenium in supplements is helpful. It's helpful in the diet, but for different reasons. So they're both critical. It is possible to get too much in supplementation, and that threshold is somewhere around 400 micrograms per day. You wouldn't want to exceed that, and that's your combined intake from all sources of supplementation. Now, when I have made supplements, I've always kept that in mind, and I made it to where even if someone was on multiple different things I've produced, they wouldn't be going above that threshold. There are dense sources of selenium in the diet. Brazil nuts are kind of outliers, but the type of selenium in them is such that it's extremely unlikely to overload. So excess from the diet is pretty unlikely. Next to talk about would be zinc and copper. These are both important nutrients. There's a certain balance needed for them. Zinc is a big part of the deiodinase enzymes. Those are the enzymes that regulate iodine and encourage proper breakdown of thyroid hormones and usage of them. Vitamin D is a big one. So this is a big part of regulating the immune response, helping to minimize autoimmune reactions, and also helping to make sure that the body is repairing connective tissues effectively. In North America, the rates of people being low in vitamin D are rather high. Now, there's a sweet spot where you want some. It's not more. Like a lot of nutrients, slight excesses of vitamin D takes away the benefits of vitamin D. So enough is good, but more than enough is counterproductive. It's kind of like too little. Next, I want to talk about is iron. Now, iron's a little different from the others in that some people need it badly. It's very important for them to add in. Others do not. Now, if you don't need it, there aren't a lot of dangers to taking it short term, but there's no benefits, and there can be dangers of taking too much too long term. So you want to be aware of your iron status, and if you are low in that, it's good to build that back up again. Iron supplements orally can be tricky. There's those who don't tolerate much, can easily get gastrointestinal side effects, and many versions don't always work well. But if you are low in iron and you optimize it, not only can that reverse a lot of symptoms that you might think were being caused by your thyroid, like hair loss or fatigue, but it can also improve thyroid function and improve thyroid autoimmunity. So it can directly affect the symptoms, and it can indirectly help the thyroid work better in ways that goes further to help the symptoms. A few more to talk about. Vitamin A is a big one. That's really critical for thyroid cell signaling. So that's a part of how the thyroid responds to TSH. That's a signal from the pituitary telling the thyroid to work. And those who are low in active forms of vitamin A may not respond properly to that signal. Magnesium is a big one too. This is important for thyroid hormone utilization and also helping to offset some of the negative symptoms like fatigue. Many can be low in magnesium. Some papers have shown that up to half of adults may be low in that at a given point in time. B vitamins, B12 and B1 are some big ones. They're critical because they're a big part of maintaining energy output, offsetting brain fog, maintaining mental energy. And they're also important because many with thyroid disease can have autoimmune conditions that make them not absorb B12 properly. A big one there is called atrophic gastritis. So about 30 to 40% of adults with hypothyroidism from Hashimoto's can also have another autoimmune disease, making them low in some key nutrients. Vitamin E is an important one. This is important for helping prevent damage to the thyroid cells from oxidative stress. And omega-3 fats are also good essential nutrients. They're a big part of how we make the compounds that regulate inflammation in the body. We directly make anti-inflammatory eicosanoids out of EPA and DHA. These are pre-formed omega-3 fats from fish, so super important. A critical thing about omega-3 fats, however, is that some sources can be too high in iodine. So that's why it's critical to be aware of the iodine content in omega-3 fats. So what are some big considerations, things to look for with your supplements? Well, you want to make sure about bioavailability. You want ones where the nutrients are bioavailable. So that means that they're, in the case of B12, that it's methylated. In the case of selenium, that's in a form called selenocysteine. These are forms that get into the body more effectively and can get used more easily as well. It's also good to have combination formulas, those that are specific for thyroid needs with synergistic nutrients. The advantages there are that there's so many individual nutrients that help. If you take them all separately, you end up with too many pills and you get way too many inactive ingredients. So it's better to be precise and use things that are specific for your needs. Also with that, being aware of just unnecessary colors and additives, flavoring compounds, those can all worsen symptoms in those who are sensitive. And also you want to look for third-party testing. Be sure the purity and potency are there and that the safety is there as well. Now the flip side of this is there's things to avoid in supplements. And the first one there is just extra iodine. So any supplements that have iodine for those with thyroid disease, when you're looking at your daily targets, you find that there's almost never room for them. And the other big wrinkle is that iodine in supplements, the amounts are almost never what they're labeled to be. Studies have shown that it's hard to make it stable, and in many cases it has many times more than one would expect from the labeling alone. We also think about the distinction between synthetic versus naturally occurring folate compounds. Synthetic folic acid can be a problem for those with the genetics making them prone to thyroid disease, whereas naturally occurring methylfolate can be better metabolized and more effective in the body. Also, in general, high-dose B vitamins can be problematic. A lot of nutrients have really high amounts of B vitamins. It looks like you're getting a lot. It's kind of like Super Size Me back in the day. You've got all these zeros of the percent of RDA, and it seems like, wow, that must be great. But there's more data saying that the high amounts are a problem for a lot of people, and that's especially true for those with thyroid disease. When people get more than they need, it often leads to food cravings, believe it or not. So yeah, high B vitamins can trigger cravings for sweets and sugars. It can also be a factor for headaches, anxiety, and mood changes. So B vitamins are good and helpful, but way too much of many of them can be problematic. You also want to avoid higher dose manganese, like more than about 3 milligrams. It's interesting. So manganese is not magnesium. This is a mineral, and we need it, but it's a mineral to where the amounts in the diet are well above and within our requirements. People don't get low in that, but when they get even on the higher side of normal on that, they're more likely to have hypothyroidism emerge. So a little extra manganese is problematic and good to be aware of. Some other general thoughts to think about are making sure your ingredients don't overlap. If you're taking a lot of different items, it's important to know that you're not getting too much of any one nutrient. And also thinking about the total pill count. If your pill count gets to be too high, the rate of you sticking with it and being regular gets low. It's hard to be consistent with too many pills. So here's some final tips on just choosing a good supplement. Work with a good practitioner. There are many that are out there that can help give guidance and give you personalized content as well. On Shop Dr. C, I've also made a quiz, which is an AI that can help guide you on what's best given your current needs and your current situation. But get some guidance, get some ways that it's personalized and made for you specifically. Be aware about dosage and timing. How are these things taken relative to each other? How should they be taken relative to thyroid medications? And then think through on symptoms. If there are particular symptoms such as brain fog or weight changes, those might influence what you're taking as well. So wrapping this up, please know that the right nutrients can make a really big difference, but the wrong ones can slow you down. So this is worth putting some thought into. And having the right knowledge can make you much more able to manage the symptoms, heal these issues, and feel better again. And that's the thing, for nearly all with thyroid disease and symptoms, it is possible, but it does take being more specific to address your particular needs. All right, Dr. C with you. Take great care. We'll talk again soon.